Welcome back. Thank you so much for keeping it KTN News. This being a Thursday, as promised, the person of interest has to happen before we can even close off the show. So the person of interest that we have today here in studio is the LSK President, Gichuhi Waiyaki. He's here with us in studio. But before we can dive into the conversation, take a listen to what he said after he got this seat earlier this year. Take a look.
First important thing that we need to do is to reconcile our members. We're already divided on different ways. For example, the young and the old lawyers, we're divided politically, and we need to have a conversation together as to how we can now mend the fences. And I'm confident we shall do that, particularly with the various issues that affect the practice and welfare of lawyers. That will be my primary concern. I believe that the very first opportunity once we get into office is to get an opportunity to have a meeting with a majority of the lawyers and agree on what needs to be done to heal those wounds. And I'm sure we will sit down together, discuss things openly, and have a 100-day plan of what deliverables we can have. Because in the 2-year period of my stay at the helm of the society, I would like to transform it to ensure that, one, practice matters and welfare affecting all lawyers are attended to. 2, the rule of law is obeyed. And the rule of law is not just attacking any particular individuals or state entities, but also ensuring that the rights of the ordinary wananchi are safeguarded. Because rule of law is really to ensure that justice is acted fairly. I'm very concerned about ordinary citizens who face criminal charge sheets where the law does not even, for example, as I said earlier in the day, provide a fine of 50,000 shillings, but it should be 500 shillings. But what happens is that the state prosecutors mutilate the law and incarcerate thousands of Kenyans. That's one of the first things I want us to look at.
Right, Gichuhi, thank you so much for your time this morning. So, before we can even get to know what you have done post your 100 days at the helm, let's get to know the man behind the title. Let's begin by, who is Gichuhi Waiyaki?
Thank you, Zinzi. It's good to be here. Gichuhi Waiyaki is a lawyer dedicated to the profession and with a passion for practice matters. Many may not know this, but I'm the 48th president of the Law Society, and I turned 48 this year.
Oh, wow.
So it was a wonderful Christmas, a birthday present for me this year. And I started practice in 1997. And from that particular point in time as a young lawyer, I took a very keen interest in practice matters and bar bench relationships. How can lawyers and magistrates and judges get together and improve the practice for the common wananchi? So I started the journey in 2000, and to date I'm still a member of various bar bench committees, even though I'm the president of Law Society.
So why law? What attracted you to law?
Well, from high school, I mean, when I started reading about law, especially those novels, James Hadley Chase and whatnot, I got attracted to law from Form 2. And at that point in time, I knew that I wanted to become a courtroom lawyer.
So if you weren't a lawyer, what would Alan be doing today?
Well, my late dad was a doctor. Most likely I would have gone to medicine. But he actually advised me, no, just pick law. Just pick law. Medicine, all those late nights, emergencies you have to attend to will take a toll. And it's true. Many times when you're a doctor, you're just on call on emergencies, and you wake up in the middle of the night and come back in the morning for a few hours sleep and go back again. I could see it was quite a toll on him.
But it's also the profession itself. Being a lawyer, it's hectic, long hours.
Yes, indeed. I mean, there are many instances where lawyers suffer from depression and breakdown because of those long hours. And it's really a sad state of affairs when we push ourselves to that. But at the same time, you've got to understand that it's also the sacrifice to make to meet our clients' expectations and deadlines. For example, some of us who are involved in international transactions, and you've got a lawyer in New York or Japan, to them, they don't care that it's 2 a.m. here. You've got to be in the office working to
get the job
meet
done.
that. But for majority of us here, of course, who don't get to those big high-level positions, we still have a our work cut out for us.
What do you attribute your success thus far? 48 years, you turned 48 and you're the 48th president within LSK. What do you attribute your success to?
Well, one of the things is that you've got to listen to others. You've got to be a team player, and you've got to work hard. Without that, you wouldn't get to where you are.
Right.
But most importantly, don't go for shortcuts, because there are many of us who, for example, would want to get rich quick, and go into the client's kitty. Basically, that's where your professionalism just erodes fast. But patience pays. And I remember when I'd go and lecture to young advocates and mentor them, I tell them, look, life is about building a profession, building your reputation. Because for a lawyer, one of the most important assets is your reputation and your professionalism. If you don't have those two by your side, then you won't get your clients and you won't survive.
Alan, what's your end goal? Do you want to go into politics? What's that one vision you'd want to attain?
No, my end goal really is just satisfaction. I've already written a book on litigation. I want to write a few more books on litigation. I want to ensure that I leave a legacy of satisfied clients, and I'd like to know that I have done quite a lot for the society and for the citizens of Kenya in terms of law reform. But I'm not interested in politics at all.
So if we were to audit you today, what have you done so far since you got the seat as LSK president?
Well, what we set out to do with my council is, at our first retreat in April, we set out a 100-day goal. What can we deliver to the members? So one of the things we realized that we had to reinvent ourselves is to, one, make our committees more vibrant, because the council gets advice from committees of various members, and we've got so many thematic committees. Two, is set a target on what can we achieve within these 100 days. For example, in the last AGM we had in March, various resolutions were passed. One of them was, let's refund the money to the members who had contributed towards the arbitration center that split the society apart. And I can assure you that already over 450 members have had their refunds. The next thing that we looked at was implement all the motions that members passed. And one of the things that I'm proud of is that we were told, within 6 months, make sure that you call a special general meeting to deliberate on the LSK draft regulations. And we did, and we had a very successful SGM last Saturday. The first of its kind in the sense that it took 10 hours. We started at about 10 minutes to 10 and finished just after 8 p.m. I remember that day, that was the longest meeting I ever presided over, because the first time I had a health break that since we started was at 5 p.m. in the evening. No lunch, just sips of water, but we did it. And we succeeded because we gave everyone an opportunity to contribute towards the regulations.
Right.
And these regulations are fast because they replaced the 1962 regulations that have been holding us together.
And that's the manual that you and your team have done?
No, these are the regulations that now operationalize the 2014 LSK Act.
Right.
So I'm proud of that achievement, coming at a time when we had a bit of friction come towards the SGM, but we handled it well, and members are generally very proud that we achieved that. The other thing that we also set out, and this is a personal goal, even the first time I ran for office, was that I realized the practice of law. You admitted as a lawyer today, but you don't know how to run your law firm successfully, because when you go to the school of law, you don't have sufficient time to get to know how to successfully run your law firm in terms of HR, accounting, conveyancing, litigation. So what did we do? I got a team together. We created an ad hoc committee, and I was very specific. I said, I want this office manual to be launched at our annual conference. So we got together, divided ourselves into groups. I personally contributed to one chapter of the book on litigation. Others contributed to various chapters, depending with our expertise. And believe you me, within 60 days, we got, for the first time in Kenya's history, the LSK office manual. And this was done in 60 days, and it's 171 pages.
And the mentorship?
the mentorship, we did also a mentorship program for young lawyers, because we also realized how can we lift the standards of practice. So the mentorship program was also devised, and it was launched by the Honorable Chief Justice together with a book. And a third book was Bar Bench Guidelines, which this time I got our branch chairs and I told them, look, please come up with guidelines, because practice and welfare matters are within your mandate. So they complied, and they came up with the guidelines, which were also launched at the annual conference.
And speaking of young lawyers, young advocates, a lot of them feel that the age limit put on the presidency sort of bars them from contributing and playing their part and having to vie. We saw that with Nelson Harvey, one of the contenders during the last election for LSK.
Yes.
How do you respond to that?
Well, at the last AGM, 2 motions were passed by the members. One was to remove the age limit, and 2 was a motion also to remove the age limit for the JSC representative. And we complied with the resolutions. We petitioned Parliament as mandated by our members, and within a short period of time, the petitions went to Parliament, and we're waiting for the official response from Parliament to decide on whether the age limit must fall. Will be considered by the parliamentary committee on that.
You wouldn't mind the age limit being falling?
Look, you see, for me, I believe in a democracy.
Right.
And I believe in what the majority would say. So we follow what the majority says.
How does LSK and the government work? Do they work together on certain projects? What does that sort of relationship look like?
Actually, it's, one of the things that we also looked at keenly was this. The whole concept of a society of lawyers is to assist the government and assist the judiciary in the administration of justice and the rule of law. And I'm proud to say that we set out to meet all the important government functionaries. We met with the Honorable Attorney General, we met with the Chief Justice, we met with the Honorable CS of Lands, we met with the DPP on diverse dates. And what we agreed was that let's get together and identify common areas where we can improve in terms of amending the law. For example, with the Honorable Attorney General, the very first meeting we had, and we set out our memorandum of concerns, he proposed immediately after the meeting, let's set up a 10-member committee comprising 5 senior state councils and 5 council members to meet on a regular basis on identifying solutions to the problems that we face. For example, the companies registry, the bottlenecks that we face there, various matters of practice that affect the citizens. And that committee has been meeting twice a month. With the Chief Justice, we've also set up, we have various bar bench relationships. That's why we have these guidelines.
Right.
And proposed ways and means of how we can improve justice for the citizens, how we can eradicate the backlog of cases. With the DPP, the very first meeting we met, I gave him a brief summary of the last chapter of the book I wrote on litigation on duplex churches. Now, duplex churches, what you had me say there during when I made the victory speech, is a situation where you go to City Hall today, you will find a kiosk owner who's been charged with an expired packet of unga, taken to court, and released on cash bail of 50,000 shillings. Yet, the reality is this, and this is free advice for us Kenyans. Whenever you go to court, you'll find the first thing you look at the charge sheet is, are you charged under the Substantive Act or under the regulations? If your offense is breach of the regulations, go to those regulations, and at the tail end of the regulations, you'll find that the penalty is defined. In most cases, you'll find it's probably 500 to 2,000 shillings per count. But what these churches have is that they go to the general penalty, which is the last penalty provision in the Substantive Act, that now states that if there's no penalty prescribed for this particular offense, the fine is 500,000.
So on that same note, a lot like you are telling Kenyans this is free advice. On that same note, one of your goals was, 1, to look at the welfare of lawyers and advocates here in Kenya. Number 2, to help the common wananchi when it comes to seeking justice.
Yes.
How far have you gone with that, especially on the aspect of, helping common wananchi get justice?
Yes. In fact, one of the things that I want to inform the common wananchi, we have the Legal Awareness Week, as you can see, and we've issued a public notice, yeah? Now, as far as this is concerned, the theme this year will be on the fight against corruption. Then you'll see that we've got various areas where we will render free advice across the major cities we have in Kenya. So members of the public, please note that from the 24th, that's Monday next week to Friday, we will be having these clinics where you'll get free advice on various topical issues, and you're welcome over there.
So that's for a week?
That's for a week.
What happens after that week?
Now, after that week, what we normally do is we also look at instances where we can offer pro bono services. Like now, lawyers, especially in criminal matters, get together and offer pro bono legal services where, in terms of legal aid. Now, the problem with that, the challenges we've had is the uptake. And the concerns are being addressed right now. We have had a meeting with the Chief Justice on this issue, and also the President of the Court of Appeal, as to how we can improve pro bono legal services for Kenyans who are incarcerated.
Right.
So that is an ongoing process.
Okay.
Just going back to that issue, we talked about the duplex churches. I just wanted to point out that the DPP even set up a task force. And within 30 days, one of the areas that is going to look at is that issue of duplex churches.
Within 30.
So that is one of the things that Law Society is going back. What about the ordinary citizens? How can they benefit? Now, for me, what I believe in as a society is not just to make public pronouncements without follow-up. We engage in Parliament in terms of law reform. And I mapped out with my council our term in quarters. So we finished the first quarter in delivering some of the practice issues. Now we're going to the second quarter of legal reform, where we're going to propose to Parliament various ways of amending various statutes that we feel are an impediment to justice. So that is what we're doing this particular quarter. For example, even before I became president, I petitioned Parliament in my own personal capacity as a citizen to come up with a fraud act to fight corruption, because many companies, company directors hide behind the shield of the corporate veil and defraud Kenyans. And I set up the example of the Fraud Act in England, Singapore, and other jurisdictions, which is very effective. I also came up with the issue of having induplam apply in all money lending transactions, because Shylocks come and fleece Kenyans. You find a Shylock giving you a loan and asking for 20 to 30% per month.
So on the same breath, a lot of your critics would say that LSK this time round has been quiet on certain issues, from corruption to the tax that we're also seeing, which other bodies like Kotu have been very vocal about. LSK has perhaps lost the fire that it once had. Your comment?
No, you see, I think that is a gross misapprehension of what LSK does. Remember, what we are supposed to do is assist the government and judiciary in rule of law, administration of justice, and upholding the Constitution. We, since we came to office, have already instituted quite a number of public interest litigation cases. Now, we have to appreciate one thing. I believe in substantive action, and I don't believe in just appearing on daily talk shows and making comments with no follow-up. I'm a man of action, as you can see what we've set out to deliver.
Right.
For example, the minute the government came about with digitization of the lands office, we went to court not to fight digitization, but on a very simple complaint that Parliament had not passed the regulations, which would then operationalize and set up the issue of digitization. And when we filed suit and had a follow-up meeting with the Honorable CS, we actually agreed. Let's consent to our petition and set up a task force. That task force is up and running as we speak. They're meeting in Naivasha this week to now come up with proper guidelines. We went to the company's registry and said, look, we have bottlenecks with this digitization process of the company system. We need solutions. So we are there to provide practical solutions. Now, as far as LSA is concerned, anytime we find that the rule of law has been offended, like for example, when the executive order was passed this year, we went to court and got stay orders, because what happened is the executive order is that it lumped up all independent institutions under the Office of the Attorney General, which was unconstitutional. We went to court on the issue of NHIF, access to justice, where NHIF say that they will no longer accept affidavits sworn by advocates. Now imagine a client who needs an affidavit, a simple affidavit, having to travel maybe even 100 kilometers plus to go to a magistrate to get an affidavit. So there's a lot going on that members may not know.
Okay, speaking of that, there's this thing that we've seen within our society where you find a lawyer, even sometimes very prominent lawyers, who would go and defend a person in court who to the public eye is guilty. What is the position of LSK on that? I'll give an example, very simple. Perhaps this lady murdered the husband, right? And you find a very prominent lawyer is backing and standing for the lady, right? And in the public eye, she's guilty. What is the position of LSK on that?
Well, that's interesting because, you see, the thing is about the public eye. The public eye must follow the constitutional eye.
Okay.
Well, it's as simple as this. Under Article 50, every person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Proven by who? By a court of law. You have to prove before the court of law that so-and-so is guilty. Now, regrettably, and this is a common situation worldwide, we tend to condemn people on the basis of rumors at times. Were you an eyewitness to the murder? All you're hearing is someone said so-and-so murdered. Were you there to witness it? Now that's the sad psyche we have in Kenya, that we will just get into mass hysteria without evaluating the facts and then the law and condemn someone unheard. It is very unfortunate. There's a lot of character assassination that has been taking place.
All right, on the same breath.
And also on that point,
Okay.
Every person is entitled under the Constitution to legal representation. Whether you're guilty or not, it is up to the court to decide. So we have to be patient in that.
Do you think that lawyers, especially very prominent lawyers, should be able to take sides when it comes to politics, NASA, Jubilee?
Look, when it comes to politics, it's a personal choice. And no one can buy you from deciding which side of the coin you want to take a stand.
But should it be out in the public?
It's, as I said, it's a personal choice. You cannot be stopped. Like when I ran for president, people branded me, he's Jubilee, because my name betrayed me, as a common adage would go. But the point is, and I made it very clear, LSK is supposed to be and is an apolitical organization. We will only side with the politics of the Constitution. We will not seek favors from any particular political party. And that is why, in fact, I remember the very first time there's a cartoon, I think it was in the Standard, guy who drew me there as a puppet and saying that I am nobody's puppet. I remember that cartoon. And I remember my predecessor said, gosh, in all these years, I've never even appeared in the cartoon, but you appeared in the cartoon. And I'm happy to say that we've held true to our vision of remaining apolitical and focusing what can benefit.
Generally speaking, Alan, are lawyers liars?
No, that's another misconception.
That's the thing. Break it. Tell me.
The thing is, we go by professional code. We have our own ethics. And one of the things is to uphold justice. Now, this misconception that lawyers are liars is just a figment of so many people's imagination and actually character association of lawyers. Because you read it about in books, you read it about in Hollywood movies, but no, we're not liars. We uphold the law. We follow the strict standards to ensure that justice is met in every circumstance.
What does Alan do for fun?
Well, I am trying to learn golf at this late age. I play a bit of lawn tennis, not much. I love reading, but I read a lot of legal stuff.
Right.
And that's what I really enjoy. A lot of research is what I really love doing, because every time I have a curious mind. I look at a problem and I want to find out what is the solution and why can there be a solution. And that is why within 100 days, I'm proud to say that I have realized 90% of my manifesto.
Okay.
And that makes me really proud, because I didn't do it alone. I'm a team player. So I reach out to all my council members, to all members out in society, and we'll say, let's focus. How can we deliver these positive gains that we promised our members? And true to a word, in fact, one of the things that made me proud was within 60 days of becoming president and reaching out to so many members, from young advocates to old advocates. One advocate sent me an email that I feel I should frame. And he says, I haven't seen a more proactive president in 30 years. Now, that was really a profound statement. Why? Because we are feeling the change. We're awakening the giant within us. and bringing about positive change to the society as a whole, that Kenyans will feel the impact.
Right.
And all I can tell you is with cooperation with Parliament, we are going to make a lot of positive changes that will affect the citizens. And I think that's what Kenyans want. Kenyans do not want an empty debe. Kenyan wants a debe full of water with substance.
Alan, it's so good to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so that's where we are going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll dive into stories making headlines and also go back to some of your tweets. Remember, we were asking you today morning, being the tax D-Day, do you think President Uhuru Kenyatta's finance bill is working in your favor? Tweet us at KTN News, at Zinzi_K. We're taking a quick commercial break to pay a few bills, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.